Alright, today we're doing powers and exponents. Okay. You've seen before, we've talked about them before a little bit. The base, if I talk about the base, that's the big number, right, which the base here is 5. 5 is being raised to the second power, or I might call it squared. Okay, because when we've seen square units, when you talk about area, those are square units. It's raised to the second power. This is the same thing. It's being raised to the second power. So 2 is the exponent. The exponent is written in what's called superscript, meaning it's being raised to the right, top right corner. Right? It's subscript if it's written down here. Right? But for exponents, we write it in superscript. So it's 5 to the second power. Thing you need to know, any number except 0 raised to 0 power is 1. So any number that's raised to 0 power is 1 except for 0. You can't raise 0 to a 0 power. But if you raise 5 to 0 power, it's 1. 1,000 to 0 power, it's 1. Every number is 1 except for 0. Okay? And you can't raise 0 to 0 power. Write the expression using exponents. If you see something like this, all they want you to do is write it with the exponents. So you write what the base is. Here, the base is 4. Right? How many 4s are up there? 7. Hey, and something I want to point out. Hey, every year I have people do this, and when you have to work out something like this, if they gave you 4 to the 7 power, people do 4 times 7. That's not the same thing as 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. Okay? It bothers me because I'll say it here, and yet I'll still have students do it. Right? I said it last hour, and then I called on a student 2 slides later to work out a problem, and he did the exact thing I said not to do. Please pay attention. Right? You do not do 4 times 7. If you have to work this out, it is not 4 times 7. It is 4 times 4, 7 times. Okay? That's what raising to the power is. If they want 4 times 7, they'd write out 4 times 7. Why would they come up with a fancy way of writing 4 times 7 when it's not necessary? Right? They came up with something different because they want something different. Right? If they want 4 times 7, they just write 4 times 7. Here, you just write what's inside parentheses, which is -8, right? And then you put your exponent. And there's a reason why. I'm going to show you on the next slide why you put it inside parentheses. You leave it inside parentheses. If it's a negative number, or if it's a fraction, or if it's some other, which you're going to see a couple examples later of things inside parentheses, everything that's inside parentheses stays inside parentheses. The exponent is on the outside. Right? And it's especially important with negative signs, and I'm going to show you why. Right, write these 2 down. And I've kind of skipped ahead, and we're going to work out exponents, and we haven't actually got that yet, but I'm going to show you there's a reason why parentheses are important. Okay? This is -3 squared, and the bottom one is -3 squared, or squared is raised to the second power. It's the same thing, but yet you get 2 different answers. -3 squared, if it's -3 inside parentheses, when that's squared, -3 times -3 is +9. The difference is if it's not outside parentheses, you would treat the negative sign like a minus sign, and you do 3 squared. What is 3 squared? What's 3 times 3? 9. And the minus sign stays. Is 9 the same thing as -9? No. And yet students still will try and write this like it's this. Right? They are 2 separate. Now if it's odd exponents where you're going to get a negative answer no matter what, it doesn't really make a difference. But it does matter with even exponents. So what I want you to do is if you are giving a problem that says, that wants a negative number, put it inside parentheses. I'm going to require that. That's one thing I'm going to look for on your homework tomorrow. Is that you put parentheses around side negative numbers that's supposed to have parentheses. Okay? Don't leave that out. Right? And people don't think it's a big deal, but it does later on. It really matters later on when you start working with a bunch of different things. Right? And you see this, right? And you think it's this, right? And then you get it wrong. It's because this is not this. -3 squared, if it looks like this, is not +9. It's -9. Right? It's -9. Okay? It's only -3 squared if it's inside parentheses. All right, write these down. Here you have y times y times y and so on. Your base is just what's there, what's the only thing that's there. Hey, and it doesn't have to be numbers. Sometimes it'll work with variables. Hey, the next one's what we call a polynomial, like k plus 2. That's a polynomial, which you don't even know what that is right at the moment. But when you get to algebra, we talk about polynomials and we multiply polynomials. Right? And so you can use exponents for various things. It's not just numbers. Here, y is being raised to the what power?
The 7.
7, because there's 7 y's. It's y to the 7th power. Here, again, I just write what's inside parentheses. It's k plus 2. And I raise it to the 3rd power because there's 3 k plus 2's. So I raise it to the 3rd power. And later on, I'll teach you how to work that out. Okay, it's just k plus 2 times k plus 2 times k plus 2. But you can simplify it and write it like this. A whole lot less writing. K plus 2 cubed. 3. Anything raised to the 3rd power is cubed. Here, it wants you to work things out. It wants you to work out everything you can. There's nothing you can do with the 5, so the 5 stays. You can raise r to the 2nd power. You can square it because there's 2 r's. And then the s, there's 4 of them. Right? And this is what we call a monomial. And again, that's not that important, but what you see here is 5r squared s to the 4th. It's all a multiplication problem. And I write them side by side so you know you multiply everything out. But because you have 2 r's, instead of writing r times r, you can simplify it and just write r squared. And you know whatever you plug in for r, you're going to times it by itself twice. And whatever you plug in for s, you're going to times it by itself 4 times. No, you're right. Camden was wrong. That is 6. Good job, Camden. Write this down. Now, the reason I threw order of operations back up here is we never had to do exponents. The first time we talked about it on day 1, we didn't have exponents. So now you have exponents in there. Right? What you do, again, order of operations, we should know it by now, but you look at grouping symbols. Are there grouping symbols? If not, you go to the next thing. If there is, then you look, is there any more grouping symbols? Is there grouping symbols inside the grouping symbols? Sometimes there will be. If not, then you go down, is there exponents inside the grouping symbols? If not, then you would do the next 2 order of the operations. You multiply and divide left to right, then you would add and subtract left to right. Right? And then, once you get outside those grouping symbols, you look, are there any more exponents? Or are there exponents? If there's yes, then you do those. Right? And then you would multiply and divide, and then you would add or subtract. Not necessarily add and subtract, but add or subtract in left to right. Right? All right, write this down. All right, so what you have, it says evaluate x squared plus y cubed if x equals 6 and y equals -2. First thing I want you to do in your homework is to write out x squared plus y cubed. And then I want you to write out x, instead of x, I want you to replace it with 6. So this is 6 squared, or 6 to the 2nd power, plus, and I want you to replace y with -2. Now, it's a negative, so you put it inside parentheses. And then you just work it out. We don't have any grouping symbols other than parentheses around -2. But there's no operations inside there, so we go on the exponents. And 6 squared would be what, Ben?
12. What?
No, it is not 12.
Oh, 36, sorry.
Just like I said, students are going to make that mistake. It is not 6 times 2. If they want 6 times 2, they'd write it out. Right? There's 100 different ways of writing 6 times 2. Why would they make up another one? This is not 6 times 2. This is 6 to the 2nd power. This is 6 squared. That means there's 2 6's. Plus -2 cubed, which would be what, Camden?
-8.
It is -8. The more and more you do these, the better you get. I do it a couple. I mean, there's different ways of doing. Some people figure out if it's positive or negative first. Some people don't. I do. I know it's going to be negative. My answer's going to be negative because I have an odd number exponent or a power. Right? And I know if I have an odd number of negative signs, my answer's going to be what? Negative. Hey, remember, we've talked about it before when we dealt with negatives. If it's an even number of negative signs, it's going to be positive. If it's an odd number, it's going to be negative. So I automatically know it's going to be negative before I even knew it was going to be 8. And then I just do 2 times 2 times 2, which 2 times 2 is 4, so 4 times 2 is 8. Now, some people don't do it that way. They figure it out at the end, so they do negative 2 times negative 2, which is 4. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. So either way, it doesn't matter, as long as you get negative 8. 36 plus negative 8 is what? 28. Thank you. Any questions? All right, you need to write this down. I'm going to come by in exactly 60 seconds and check your answer. Now, most of you did it right, but some of you made a mistake that I said not to make. Okay? This is 10 plus b squared. b is negative 2, so that would put it inside parentheses. Some of you didn't do that. And then you got it wrong because you did 10 minus 4. It's not 10 minus 4. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. So 10 plus 4 is 14. Your answer should have been 14. So if you got 6, you need to change your answer right now. Right, there were several of you that did. Right, because b was negative 2 and b is being raised to the second power, you would raise everything that b is to the second power. b is negative 2, so it's negative 2 times negative 2. 2 negatives make a positive, so you have 10 plus 4, 14. All right, here's your homework assignment.